Fucking killing it this morning, everyone. So, catch you guys up with a little bit my life and last weekend getting to share with everyone. It's great. This week didn't quite go as planned. I really thought I was going to be heading to Denver the last 2 days, but Bonnie has been laid up with kidney stones. So we ended up having to go in for like a surgery. They had to put her under and like go in and get all the way up to the kidneys and fucking check everything out. Remove 2 stones and then send us on our way. So hopefully we're through whatever that is. She seems to be on the mend, but kidney stones are super fucking lame. And it's been, good. She got, so I guess this is a little segue, but, I try to do my best of kind of not fighting. Let me go ahead and mute everyone who. Everybody? Yeah, I think everybody's on mute. Sweet. Yeah, like the plans, right? The plans that we had kind of set were going to be we were going to drive to Denver because we were going to go pick up a bunch of furniture from a friend, and it makes sense with furniture wise. If we're going to do some Airbnbs, we should probably grab what we can if it's good stuff and available. And so we were going to go and do that and help a friend move and grab up some of the stuff. And then as Bonnie's situation got a little worse, it seemed that she didn't need to make that trip. And personally, I didn't plan on making the trip anyway. This was something her and Jen had decided that they wanted to do, and I was going to facilitate and help with where I could. And that quickly changed to now I'm driving to Denver by myself to go help a friend move to get furniture I'm not that really interested in. But if that's what I could do to help Bonnie, and if that's what she was going to be doing if she wasn't laid up and I didn't have something better, not better per se, but just on the books, I didn't. I mean, I was going to lay around the house and be fucking lazy, which also needed currently, but I can be lazy driving a van. I could have that alone time. I can change that. Whereas, the driving thing isn't an added stress. It's not going to take away. And so being the best way I could like that to try to manage and help her, since, she's always there for anything I need or anything I can, that she can ever show up and be helped with, like riding on the back of a motorcycle while fighting kidney stones for a week. That's a fucking lot. So if I need to drive to Denver, so fucking be it. You know what I mean? Like if that's what I can do to help show back, I got this so that you can take care of something else, so be it. So kind of jumping through my ass to make that all happen, trying to not drive my truck to Denver as it gets terrible gas mileage. And kind of the also point of this was to play with the van a little bit. I got a receiver hitch added to the van, cruise control added to the van, and then realized that there's no wiring harness to pull a trailer. So went to get that sorted, and a U-Haul or whoever was doing the trailer install for me does not have a wiring harness for that van. So did everything I could, man. I tried to call Denver to see if there was a place I could get it installed there. Once I got there, was there a place halfway that I could get it in Topeka? And I couldn't get anything to line up, and I couldn't get anything to work. And so it was worth just taking a second and realizing that, man, I felt really bummed that I was letting Jen down. I felt really bummed that I was not getting this done for Bonnie. But at the same time, like, at what point am I supposed to listen and take the advice from the universe of like, me making this happen is more of a fight than it needs to be, when what's the reality of it? We probably have $3,000 worth of furniture that we'd maybe acquire here that's going to sit indefinitely in a basement until we have time to start working on that. So it really wasn't worth the added stress when the time came. And so being able to actually change gears and switch to being home and helping and playing support with whatever Bonnie needed physically was a much better day. And I got to have the down regulation day yesterday that I've been needing as well. So, listening a little bit instead of just staying on the gas really did me a big favor on trying to accomplish what was really better for us than going to get the furniture. I needed to reset. I really needed that downtime. I needed time to process this past couple weeks with everyone, the last couple trips of the motorcycle thing, where things are, catch up on a few, and just more's not always the answer. Like going to do this next thing isn't the thing that was going to benefit us. So I guess the short of this is that, being able to listen a little bit better and change my expectations instead of being bummed that I had this thing planned or blah, 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 blah. Whatever those things are that I know old me would have got really frustrated about. I would have got really frustrated with the idea that I didn't even want to fucking go to Denver. You set this up. Now I got to go. And it could have got really shitty and become this fight between me and my chick. But for fucking what, dude? I'm in control, right? Like I said I would go. So I'm going. No one's making me go to Denver. I chose it. I can always say no. No one's making me stay home. I get to choose that now based on the new information I have that it's just not worth pulling the other thing off and responding to everyone. Am I letting anyone down? I'm not. I'm not letting anyone down. So going through and having the explanation to share with those people and having friends, again, like Jen or Bonnie or the other partners in my life or people I deal with who know that because historically dealing with me, I show up and do things. So if I don't show up, there's a valid reason and I'm not being shitty. I know that I'm someone that I can be counted on. And so long term, that allows me to change plan. That if I'm doing it, the people in my life know it's for a damn good reason because I don't flake. So I'm not looking for the easy way out, and so being able to get that downtime yesterday has done way more than ever probably, having the downtime yesterday to sit with Bonnie on the couch and hang out and be connected and just be with us did more for us than me going to get that fucking furniture would have. So to dive into the meat of today's discussion is the third rule of the 4 agreements. Don't make any assumptions. Don't make an assumption. This one's really tough. Bonnie and I have been really kind of harping on it lately about where we call each other out on it, where we notice it and where we find ourselves falling into making assumptions about stuff. So, the basis of this kind of rule, or not rule, but agreement is that, we'll stop assuming others know what we think or what we want, or vice versa. We should communicate clearly and ask questions instead of jumping to conclusions. That's a big one, and I know that we all fall into it, and man, it is deep. So many different depths of where those things really start popping up. So I wrote down, how often do you let assumptions just get spun up and then they create this narrative? You start, and then what I noticed from there is once I lean into that assumption of what I thought or what they were thinking or why they did what they did, or I'm guessing someone's intention, I realized that the communication wasn't clear. I didn't express myself enough, or I didn't ask enough questions to understand what was needed to be explained clearly. And so I assumed a lot. And that assuming just leaves too much open for grabs. It leaves too much opportunity there for you to create your own narrative and build it based on your bullshit. This goes back to not taking everything personal. And this goes back to, it goes back to that. What are you taking personal? What did you set expectations about that aren't based in that reality? That the intention wasn't clearly defined, and that's where frustration, anger, and the things that assumptions let you down. That Well, I assumed that they would pick this up because why wouldn't they? Well, did you explain that? I noticed, thinking about just various ways this has kind of shown up. I think about for years when I was competing, I would go and do get massage work done, chiropractic work done, needling, or any of these type of things. And a lot of it, I would, go see a masseuse and I would finish up and be like, I was all right. Meanwhile, now looking at it, right, like searching for that masseuse who does the works the way you want to. I think about how few times I communicated with my masseuse of what exactly I was looking to get done. And then what weird or awkwardness I have about giving feedback of like, oh, they were too soft, or that's just their technique, or any of this. Why would they know what I need done physically without? Am I hoping they can fucking guess, or that they're gonna miraculously be able to drag their hands across my body and find where the actual tight spots are? Maybe. But why not? Why aren't we working together on this and me explaining? Me doing a better job of explaining what's worked for me in the past. I've gotten lots of body work done. Why would I leave this as a new person to come in and try to guess what works best for me after I've collected fucking 15 years of data of what works to help my body get together? Why wouldn't I share and be useful to help build success for that person to do their job better for us? Right? Instead of, ugh, they just didn't do it right. No one can do it right. Like, are you explaining? Are you setting an idea of what you would like to accomplish from that? I think it's important that, again, you're not leaving anything up to assumption. You're not assuming they understand what you want either. That's with your partner, that's with life, that's with a lot of things. Life assumptions and life expectations, thinking about how I know it's going to go and is the plan ideal. And so when I make these assumptions about things, are they, take note of yourself, right? And so here's a question for you. Whenever you make assumptions about how you think of what a thing's going to go, are you typically on the positive side, that you think it's going to go better than it typically turns out? Or do you catastrophize and think of all the bad things that are going to go when this fails, and that's leading you back? I'd love to hear some from people about where, assumptions about things have gotten in the way, or where they, hell, even make an assumption about a thing, which takes away taking any action, because why do it now? I've already figured the whole plan out. I've already made an assumption of how the whole thing will go. So there's no reason to even fucking try it. That just won't work. Instead of, I don't know, why don't we try it and see? This doesn't have to be a burn the fucking boats approach to everything you try to do. Implement a new thing in your life and take some feedback from it. I was having a discussion this morning with one of the group members, Rebecca, and we were talking about morning routine and how, there really isn't this kind of clear plan for me to reach out and say, add these 5 things to your fucking morning and we're going to fix things. You're going to be more productive. You'll be better. You're going to do all this. There's plenty of books that do that. We've talked about a number of them. My Miracle Morning, we've talked about other books that lead morning routine or any of those things. But personally, what I've found is all of these things are tools. And whether that's the breath work, the meditation, the journaling, the morning practice, the hot, cold, the exercise, the whatever it is something that you need to experiment with some things to add to your morning routine so that you figure out what works for you to get your machine accomplishing what you want to for the day, so that your head's in the right place, so that your body's moving the right way, so that you feel ready to take on the day instead of just showing up and being on your heels. This is a big thing we've talked about repeatedly through the course of this group, is that I want to be on the offensive in my life and making decisions going toward what I want instead of reacting and trying to fucking deal with shit I don't want. There's a big difference in that approach. And I think having a morning routine, having some non-negotiables in your life is important. What those things are is far less important than what matters to you. If you figure out that listening to fucking heavy metal for 5 minutes every morning as soon as your alarm clock goes off sets your day on the right path, I say fucking let it run. Does that work for me? Nope. Not going to work at all. So But I don't want to tell you what works for you. What I want you to do is be a scientist and experiment with your life, and don't have assumptions over that won't work. Well, that would be stupid, or any of those things. The problem is now is I've tried enough shit. The stuff works. It doesn't always work. Not everything's great, but I need to know personally. And just because it doesn't work for me doesn't make it shit. It could also be not great for me now. I definitely have tools that I use now that I knew about when I was competing and doing that I didn't use then. I have different goals in my life right now. And so being able to put things in place to help accomplish what I'm trying to do now, that's a big one. I know I asked about, where people have caught themselves making assumptions. So I'd love to open that up for a little bit of chat, and then we'll get back into it. Anybody got anything this week? Jared.
Yeah, I kind of had a funny story about assumptions. I was having a conversation with Susanna about possibly moving to an acreage, and I had just assumed like, yeah, I don't want to mow a bunch of grass or move a bunch of snow. Like I just want shop square footage. And then she just stopped. She's like, I don't mow grass. Like we have wildflower seeds and all this stuff that I don't like. It takes zero maintenance.
Right.
And it just stopped me. Like,
fuck.
I've made assumptions about that this whole time.
Yeah. How many years have I canceled out that avenue?
Yeah.
Based on non-reality.
Yeah.
That someone else has it figured out. Like, so why not? How are they doing it? Because clearly there's other people doing this who don't want to manage property. Having acreage and wanting some space is not the same as I'd like to farm. Nor does it mean I need 30 people to, manage this piece of property. Part of that depends on what the property is you're buying. I know, one of my friends, Dan, up in Montana, has quite a bit of property and is now starting to build some yurts and some Airbnb stuff on it. But he has spent the last couple years really just kind of maintaining the woods and forest around his house. So clearing underbrush, getting rid of stuff, making room for things. And so there's an infinite number of ways to manage situations. So whether that's, hell, buy acreage and realize that someone else will come and do all of the hay for you and probably buy the hay from you. Right? There's a ton of options. Like that's an option that can be done. You can manage things in a lot of different ways. I know people who've bought acreage and lease it out for other people's animals to use it. I mean, there's always options. Having the property is key. Anyone else? Brian.
I can be the king of, sorry, go ahead.
No, go for it. Whoever was chatting.
I was just going to say, I can be the king of telling myself a story and making assumptions, whether it's a text message from my wife that I interpret it based off my mood, or a conversation with a coworker, like, well, that's really shitty. I have to like kind of take a step back, like, why would a rational person talk that way? I'm inflecting a lot of emotions on that. So making assumptions, my knee jerk is always something I have to second guess before I act.
Yeah. I mean, that assumption part, right? It goes both ways with not just assuming, but also don't project. It's really easy to get caught in projecting on how you feel to a situation, or projecting that they know you're doing this, and so why are they attacking you? And because a lot of us are in stress or are on our heels or spending most of our day kind of in this parasympathetic nervous system, stuck in fight or flight. I think I've got that right. It's one of the two. Either way, stuck in your fight or flight system, that whenever there is a stress, you immediately take on the attack and feel like that is a challenge or someone actually trying to personally do you harm out of malicious intent, right? Like that's that assumption that's incorrect most of the time. Brian.
Yeah, I'll just share with you guys a story of how I irreparably damaged some relationships with coworkers through like real assumptions about what their intentions were, which caused me to have to shift my entire perspective on like how I act and interact with people. So I've got like these coworkers. I work for fintech, but we have a real small office in Dublin and Ireland. It's like 12 people. For like the 80,000 who work for the company, it's tiny. So I had this one coworker, and we just lock heads all the time. We're constantly like fighting with each other, bickering, getting in each other's way because we're not communicating. There's no like clear expectations of like, let's agree on what we're doing. So it led me to this case of like every time he opened his mouth, I was like, this motherfucker is going to give me shit and I'm going to fuck him up. Every single time, like he just came at me and I'm like, I'm ready to throw down. Adrenaline was spiking, the whole lot. And it just got to this case where, I was talking with him, he was screaming at me, everyone's looking at the two of us. I'm just like, what are we doing? Like, this is not school, we're not children, this is crazy. And I had to took a couple of days off just to decompress and really reflecting on my actions and what I'm doing. And I'm like, I'm assuming that everything he says is going to be the counter to what I want to do. I'm making this assumption, and I came up with this mantra that I repeat to myself all the time, and it's understand and act, don't react. So every time someone talks to me, I'm like, wait, what is it that I think that they're trying to say? What is it that their words are communicating without intonation or assumption? And then what is it that my gut is telling me that is coming across here? And then I pick the best one. Which one is the best case scenario here? I mean, that said, I still make assumptions all the time. I assume that things are going to go well. I assume things are going to go terribly. I assume people are going to do what they say. I assume people aren't going to do what they say. I do it all the time, but at least I have this one little thing that I can tell myself when I recognize that I'm in this place of, projecting my assumption of behavior onto somebody else based on whatever bias that I have towards that person or that situation.
Yeah. Dude, we do that all the time. I've had old jobs where I've done it too. Really the only assumption, right, is that I don't think most of the people I deal with have malicious intent toward me. And like, that's the place to start, is that this person does not have malicious intent directly focused at me. They could just be an idiot. There's, I remember that line, and it's always been one that I've liked, and it's that don't attribute malice to what can be answered with stupidity. Stupid's forgivable. Malicious, fuck you. It's very simple. Like, if you made a malicious attack, noted, you may not be to be someone that I deal with. Like, if you operate out of that, and then realize, is it malicious or are they fucked up too? Are they in some weird spot that they're just lashing out and drowning? There's a difference. Malicious intent means someone set out to say, fuck you, Matt Vincent. That's it. It's not that they inconvenienced me or that their shit wasn't a problem. There's some spillover, bad decisions that occasionally get all of us. But did that person set out to cause me a direct problem? And if so, that is a person I will no longer deal with, and I will treat accordingly. Outside of that, let me work on trying to communicate better. If that person is someone who continues to prove after intention has been cleared and all these type of things, then maybe distance need to be taken care of. But again, I'm not giving them any of that daily energy of being frustrated by them. By that point, like, yeah, I know I'm dealing with this type of person. They're not going to change. The only thing I can change is how I react to it. And that's what it seems like you've done. I mean, you fixed you instead of altering them needing to alter their life to make you more comfortable. You changed it. So fucking great work, dude. Josh.
Yeah, there were two big assumptions that really hit me this week. One, the very simple one. I've been working through my MBA for the last 2.5 years and just finished it up. And when I finished it, there was that feeling of, okay, well, fuck, what now?
Congratulations, you're at step one.
Right. And like I recognize it talking to people last weekend and talking to some of the other group people this week. Like I came to realize that I had this assumption in my head that once I finished, shit would just magically happen.
Nope.
And like, having that kind of hit me in the face this week of, oh wait, no, I actually have to put forth effort and take steps, intentionally taking steps forward to change things. Like that
Buying a hammer does not
was a
make
big
you a
shift.
carpenter.
No, it does not. And kind of pairing with that, forever, I've told myself that I am not a leader, that I'm very introverted and I'm best just in the background.
Mm.
And again, having conversations last weekend and with, really diving into some of the shit with some of the other group members this week, some things have popped up that like I told myself that, but then I also recognize things about myself that I have no problem speaking in people or being the first one to jump into a situation and just going for it. And recognizing that, fuck, maybe I've been lying to myself for 33 years and I am more of a leader. I am more extroverted. I am more take charge than I originally thought. Like pairing those two things together of I had this assumption that shit would just magically happen. And I've had this assumption that I'm not a leader and I'm not the person who is out front. Like those assumptions are wrong. Now I have a much better idea and image of what I need to do moving forward.
Dude, that's great. And that's huge. That realization. I mean, man, I think a lot of us end up, and that's kind of, an overarching piece of what the group is about is I think there's so much time in life that, well, once I get there, I'll get this. And once I get there, this will be figured out. Or once I do that, things will be fine. That you think there's this. So honestly, one of the weirdest ways I think about this is like a very early on assumption that I remembered having of like, once I do this, things are different. And I really expected like tomorrow I will wake up and the world will look different, brighter colors, different thing, all that. So the very first time I remember that, I really thought getting laid the first time was going to do that. This was something I had put big emphasis and weight on. And I really assumed that like, tomorrow or whatever, the day after that, I am now someone who can see the world differently from the perspective of someone who's been laid before. And just, it didn't happen, right? It was just another day that came and it was another experience that added to it. And that's all it ever really is. There's never going to be that like, oh shit, I got the job. Now things are different. Oh shit, I got the travel show with Indian motorcycles. Now things are going to be different. They're not. It's a cool job. Nothing in my world has changed. There isn't some added coolness that's come on the backside of it that I didn't create. That's no different than I wrote a book. I thought things would change. I won a world championship. I thought things would change. They don't. They're all just things. Like the only change, it's got to be you and how you react to stuff. The change has to be there. So much of it is falling on that path of, well, I don't really like what I'm doing, but when I get to this, I'm sure I'll fall in line. I'm sure I'll feel better. I'm assuming about myself that I'll like X once I get there. Because everyone has said getting that solves problems, whether that is the degree, whether that's get the house, whether that's get married, whether that's any of the standard life plan, as kind of we've referred to it, that is supposed to get you the fulfillment and thing that you want. And then feeling bad that you don't feel that way when you have on paper everything. Like on paper, everything doesn't mean shit if it ain't what you want. You know what I mean? Like, an infinite supply of pizza is great unless you're lactose intolerant. And then you're just going to shit your pants your entire life based on someone else's favorite meal. Like, so don't build the rest of your life according to that either. Just because, you know, this thing provides someone else their happiness, their fulfillment, the life they dreamed about, or that it was supposed to fulfill yours. It was supposed to be this key that you're looking for. It was supposed to be this piece. It isn't. You know, the only things like we've talked about that I have found that continue to drive me are progress, is having things I give a shit about that I can continue to get better at. And whether that is progress I did as an athlete, like that's what has stemmed into all of this. And so the same work plan applies. Like the same way that I decided to go train and figure out everything I could about training, whether that was going to Westside or spending time with Windler or doing elites, doing the powerlifting stuff, learning how to, lift and compete in gear, doing strongman, doing Highland Games, going to learn from Kelly and Mark and all of these other mentors that in my life gave me a lot of tools to bring back and build a program that was successful for me. So while that is in this one finite direction in my life of training and competing, how do I repeat that same process for, mental health and well-being? And how do I repeat that same process for relationships and my friends? And it's about seeking out information. It's about finding stuff that builds that awareness, that allows me to make better decisions, that allows me to interpret information better, that allows me to be in better control, that allows me to better clearly explain what my thoughts and intentions are to the people around me. Brian.
This I was thinking about what you said earlier about malicious intent for someone just acting out of ignorance. That's helped me tremendously with my mental health. So like if somebody does something to me, instead of just taking it as, oh, this person's a piece of shit, they did it on purpose. Like at work, some guy fucks my warehouse up. Instead of just bitching about it for an hour because I have to clean up now, and then thinking about, oh, how am I gonna fuck this guy over now? It's just write it off as, oh no, this guy's just a fucking dumbass and he doesn't understand what he's doing.
Yeah,
He's
or
not
he's
educated.
busy, or fucking has shit going on in his personal life that he can't sort out.
Right. Like instead of spending an hour on it, just being a fucking asshole, I just write it off as, he's an idiot, whatever, move on.
Now,
Save me so much time.
What I want to be clear on this, I don't find this fucking actions from other people excusable. People being unaware, I don't find fucking excusable. But it allows me to manage how I deal with those people better. They're not aware, so I can't expect them to be.
Mm-hmm.
And me expecting them to be has now made an assumption that I can be disappointed in. The only thing I'm in control of is how I manage dealing with them. Now, in that situation, right? Like, oh, this guy's a piece of shit. Instead of giving any energy to that, what we really want to have happen, right, is they don't fuck up your warehouse for the next day. So how do we set in a path that accomplishes that goal, that doesn't put them in a fight to where they consciously are now trying to make things shittier because I'm doing the same?
Mm-hmm.
So the action I can take is, well, warehouse is going to have to get fucking picked up anyway. So I may as well get to doing it. And then how about I communicate with them like, hey man, when we came in this morning, things were pretty a wreck. It really slows down our process of trying to get stuff started. How better can I help? Right? Like what's a better way to make sure that we're set up for you at the end of the day the same way?
Mm-hmm.
Right? Like I know whenever you guys come in, we want to be running smooth. So how can we get that set up for a better transition for you guys? And that way we can just be smoother into our jobs. I always look at how do I take action instead of just requesting.
Mm-hmm.
Hell, I mean, the levels of assumption that you get, that you have to kind of work through to get efficient at stuff, us getting the Airbnb going. And so we met with the cleaner who's going to come and manage the Airbnb for us and do those type of things. And so one of those things is like, once the house is set and like ready for the first guest and we have it, let's call it perfect. whatever fuck that means. We're going to take photos of each room, of each cabinet, and where stuff goes. This is how I want the vanity in this bathroom to look. There's a photo there. This is no longer up for us to have a fucking discussion about. Does it look like this? No, you did not do it right. Where are we miscommunicating? And at that point, I have to decide, can this person interpret what I'm asking them to do or not? But I'm damn sure clear that this is black and white. I didn't say, well, the bathroom should look prettier. Like, fuck does that mean? So, that's that assumption. Sorry, Brian, to cut you off. I know you were.
No, it's okay. No, it's all good. The second part I was thinking is with malicious intent versus ignorance. When somebody acts out of pocket, whatever you want to call it to you, I always think about what Ryan Holiday talks about. It's like, maybe you don't know what they're going through and they don't know how to express themselves. Doesn't mean they're trying to hurt you. You have no idea what they've been through that day, that week, that year. So if they seem like they're lashing out at you, they could just be hurting pretty badly and they're just grasping at straws and everything around them. And if it comes out as aggression, try to see it from their point of view and think like, I know I've definitely done shit like that. So
but drowning people don't mean to drown the people around them, right?
Yeah, try to have some grace and take a step back and be like, wow, this person is either A, really struggling, doesn't know how to process their emotions, and kind of weigh the options, or maybe think, no, maybe they really are just being fucking aggressive and want to like attack me. So it's definitely helped me just taking a step back and realizing, well, this person might really be hurting right now, and they actually just need a hand up instead of a hand out,
Yeah, you just never know. You never know what everyone's dealing with, and everyone's got shit. There's that assumption too that everyone's life is fucking great, that no one has it, no one struggles with the things you struggle with. But as we've seen time and time again, whether it's groups like this or any type of community, of course everyone's dealing with the same type of shit. There's various versions of all of it, and it's different recipes, but it's all shit. Life is complicated. And life's really complicated when you're trying to do more, when you're interested in not just fitting in, and whatever awareness has come from like, holy shit, we're not just going to do this every day forever, right? Like, this is now it. We're locked in. This is as good as things get. We're at the peak. Or that feeling of, so the best is gone. Like the happiest time in my life, the most fun time, the time that I felt the most fulfilled, that time is done. That's unacceptable too. And both of those can be a choice. Like, it's, I wrote down, other assumptions I've made in my life that I felt really big on in moments that I fucked up. I remember I assumed in high school, because of my brother, that I would play college football, and not doing that felt like a failure. And I felt that it would be really disappointing to my parents that I wasn't able to do that, because I saw what, at that point, I assumed joy that it brought them to watch him play that. But whereas now I can look at it, differently and realize they liked watching him do a thing he was good at. It wasn't that he became a college football player. But I remember having that hang up before I made it into track and field and realized it didn't fucking matter. No one gave a shit. I assumed getting divorced would ruin my life. I really, for a long time, thought that, man, then I'm a guy who's been divorced and I'm fucking tainted goods and no one's going to want to be around me, and fucking, like, that's all I'd ever thought. My parents weren't divorced. I didn't come from really any divorce in any sides of my family. It's a very odd upbringing. And so, man, I just assumed there was such this heavy failure that came from divorce. That was really wrong. There's a lot of different ways to handle those situations, and I don't think there was a better time in my life that I could have handled a divorce than when I had it, than maybe now. I think I'm far more equipped at this point in my life to deal with some major life changes and the realization that I'm willing to change if I don't like how things are. That's probably the biggest positive lesson that came away from some of those things is I won't just ride something out to prove a point. You know, I'm not going to just stick it in this relationship so that I'm not considered as a divorced person. Yo, to who? No one gives a shit. You have to, what people would rather do is see you happy. What people would rather be around is someone who's like, man, that guy, he didn't tolerate it. He didn't just stick it out. Like there's no martyrdom or prize to win for suffering through a life that you don't want to live because you think other people are proud of it. Everyone's just doing their thing. You know, sharing those failures and sharing those successes with your family, with your friends, opens it up to let them realize like, oh, fuck, they're dealing with that too. The more honest you are and live with that truth, the more people find it okay to be in theirs. I hear that a lot based on messages I get from people because I am open about failure and how I feel and and anxiety and the stress I've dealt with and how I manage it and doing all those type of things. And that's what brought you people to me. Right. So opening that up in your own life to allow being vulnerable, to allow other people to get closer to you, to allow that safety for them to be vulnerable. Like that's where trust in relationships get built. That I don't want to lie to you, that I'll be impeccable with my word. If the answer is no, if the answer is I'm in the different mood or any of this, I'm going to explain it. But I'm also going to explain with that this isn't an attack on you. It's being that clear with my word. It's not assuming you understand how I feel either. You don't understand that. I mean, how many of us have gotten, in the middle of a stressful day? I've had a couple people who seem to fit this with my life, right? That like, they have some divine timing. I have a couple people in my life who have divine timing of reaching out whenever I'm stressed, and it's always something I need to hear. And then I have a couple people that when I'm really stressed and overwhelmed, somehow seem to send a text message at a time of like, what the fuck could you want? And that's how I was like, that's my first response to it. It's just like, Jesus Christ, man, right now. Like, meanwhile, they don't fucking have any idea what's going on. It's easy when I'm sitting on the couch to think everybody's sitting on the couch. And it's easy to think when my world's on fire that everyone else's world should be on fire too. And, those assumptions are tricky, and making sure that I don't act out according to that instead of just responding with really tied up right now. How can I help? Even then, right? Like even then in that situation, that's my fucking response. It's how can I help? What is it you need that I can help you with? And then that's where we go, right? Like those words have probably been the most powerful 4 words that I've added to my everyday vocabulary. And it's how can I help? Because if I can't help, do you just want support? Because I can do that too. But how can I help? Are we bitching? Cool. Let's be clear on what the intention is of what we're doing. I don't want to assume that if you've reached out to me, you really want a plan, because we can bitch. I want to assist you in whatever way is going to get you what we want to accomplish. Another part that comes with assumptions, it's really easy to get tied up to, is don't speculate. Be careful with that. It's fucking fun to speculate wildly. I'd love to do it with conspiracy theories. I'd love to just get around and speculate wildly. It's one of my favorite things. But I don't want to speculate about someone's intentions. And I don't want to speculate, even more importantly, about, oh, I bet he's an only child. I bet he came up this way. Like, because you got some fucking 6-second insight into this person's life, you're going to fucking Freud them apart. You think that's the skill that you came with there? Like, come on. Don't do that shit. Like, so much of that is just to protect your own ego. Don't get caught in that. A lot of assumptions are about that. Making assumptions are there to build and protect your own ego. that assumption of like, well, you know, they won't understand, and so it's not worth calling about or trying to do. So man, I didn't fail. You know, I didn't have to have someone tell me it was a bad idea. I didn't have to sell someone on it, man. You just can't assume. You can't assume that anything's gonna go in a certain way. You know, I wrote this down as kind of a quick little, like, kind of thinking about things in a path. Like, trying something new and having an assumption of the outcome gives me really one successful route for me to take it as a win, because I've assumed that it's going to go this way, and it either is more or less. So it has to be dead fucking on for me to get a win out of that assumption. Whereas if I want to try something new as an experiment, the intent is to say, how does this change me if I do this consistently? If I get up every morning and get into a cold shower first thing out of bed, do I feel better, same, or worse afterwards after doing it for 2 weeks? If it's better, is this something I would like to integrate into my life? These are the decisions we want to make. I don't want to assume if I do cold showers, everything's great. It's not how it fucking works. Well, I tried cold showers and everything wasn't great. But man, what if cold showers can be 1% better? Like, it's just something that made me feel sharper. I felt better that morning. It gave me this boost. And then, okay, well, I know that helps. So that's easy to do. I can add that in. That takes a couple minutes in the morning. Taking a minute to breathe or journal and write what my intentions to try to get done that day, or what are my priority things to get focused on today? What am I going to do today? Taking a minute to do that, put some sense of direction to the energy I have. Like, I know that helps me. And so I've integrated that into my life. The same way that whenever I was focused and I was training, I knew what I was doing going into the gym that day. This wasn't random. Now, training for me currently is, but my goals are different, right? So depending on what the goals are at the time, I'm going to build a system to accomplish that. You know, the staying, you know, the assumption part, right? You know, especially with friends and relationships. Don't assume it's about you, or, you know, the chances are, like, that vanity and ego wants more to be about you than really is. So on that note, man, I'd love to chat more with everyone. I really like getting a chance to share, as we haven't got to the last couple weeks. Fraser, what about you, man? I know that you've been really putting in work to do your morning routine and change things up and kind of build a little bit more.
Yeah, essentially, kind of as you were saying, assumptions. I think I posted last week where, you know, you can do your breath work, you can do your journaling, you can, you know, work on your sleep, you can read, you can, you know, be part of a community. You are assuming if you do that, then you are fixed, which
Well,
it's
but
just,
fixed also means you're broken. Like, right? Like, you gotta listen to both sides of that coin, right? And that's not the thing. You're not fucking broken. It's not what it is. There's not going to be a new screw that gets put in that puts things back together.
Mhm.
It's creating change to be who you want to be, right? Like, if I want to be a fucking runner, at some point I got to start running.
Mm.
I got to stop looking at shoes. I got to stop figuring out what routes can be done or any of these type of things. I got to start running.
Yeah. I
So-
think it's putting your sort of emotions onto, if I have this, I will feel this, and I will. I don't know. It's a complicated one. I'm quite an overthinker, even when it comes to, you know, camping. You assume that if I purchase this tent, I will now, you know, go camping more often. if I have this, amazing sports watch, then I will be fitter. It's all these things that kind of set yourself up for not disappointment, but just not meeting that like unrealistic expectation. But constantly, maybe as an ego-driven thing, constantly, assuming that or ignoring the fact that last time that didn't work, last time that didn't happen, but this time will be different because it's more expensive, or the person that I really really like wears this watch. It's just that constant, and then as soon as you get it, you're like, oh, this is great, and then back to square one, and then you're like, right, this is just. It's all emotional for me anyway. It's purely emotionally driven. It's that kind of hit of dopamine of when I get this, I will feel and be this person instead of taking action and being who I am, if that makes sense.
No, it does. And look, man, there's also a heaviness too, right? Of how quickly you can spiral by then looking at those things as proof of failure of things you didn't follow through with.
Mhm.
Like you see the sports watch, you see the clothes you picked up to go train in, you see the tent, and you see all these things that you don't fucking use, and just further proof of I don't do the shit I say I'll do.
Mhm.
And the only way to fix that is you got to do the things. For me, man,
100%.
for me, I know, like, again, I'm done pretending of the parts that like I won't overcome. Like I know the inconvenience, man. That's why I did not get back into physically taking care of myself until 2008, and I bought a squat rack and put it in my house.
Mhm.
Like I know that about me. Pretending outside of that now is a fucking lie. So for me to train and do that, I need it to be as convenient as possible for it to match my ADD so that when I feel like training, I can then be training.
Mhm.
That's
think-
how I have to set it up for success.
Yeah, I think I've also found that, even people at work or friends would have this assumption of me as this guy who, always goes camping, does cold water exposure, super, super fit. But in reality, I wasn't actually taking action. I was trying to kind of get across this ideal self without actually being that person, and almost kind of hiding behind this sort of fake persona, claiming that I'm all about health and fitness when in reality I was tanning 2 bottles of Prosecco a night, full carrot cake, takeaway,
Yeah.
and thinking that, it's justified because I ran a 5K. It's it's a weird
And-
one, but even with
And a lot of
my
that, right,
exes,
is like a lot of that too, man, is do you want to be perceived as someone who does those things? Or do you want to, or have you done those things and you feel they benefit you? And therefore, I want to continue doing those things. Like,
yeah,
that's a
100%.
question. It's a question Bonnie and I brought up yesterday as we were laying
Mm.
around on the couch and just getting a chance to be together. With as busy as we've been or any of this, it's sitting there to again say, what are our fucking goals? Like, are we looking to be really fucking busy? And not only that, like, I love the opportunity and I love the travel and I love to do all those things. But with the social media side of things, as we continue to build the Airbnb and that side of the business continues to go, this will be part of income for me that doesn't require content creation per se, right? So this will be a new thing for me in the last couple years. And so if this was going to make enough money that we could fuck off more, I would then have to admit that I'm not fucking off more because I like this other stuff. Like I like making these calls. I like having meetings. I like being busy. I like building the business. I like not going on those trips and connecting because I want to do this. And with that, there has to be some admission that the fame of it is something I want. That what would I be doing if I operated in a fucking vacuum without someone else. Like if I was blind, if I had no clue what anyone else thought of the decisions I make, what decisions do I make?
Mhm.
So like trying to figure that out again is really good. Like I love getting to work with people and help. And so that's why this project in the 1612 has been really valuable. It's allowed me to sharpen a lot of things and address and put light on a lot of my own bullshit in a better
Mhm.
way. Go ahead.
Yeah, I went through a time, I think about four years ago, where I was at a bit of a crossroads with my career, life in general, and I'd came to the conclusion that I wanted to be a Royal Marine, because I thought, you know, they are, you know, they've got grit, determination, they are highly respected, absolute machines, they operate at their best when they feel their worst. And I thought, yes, that's exactly what I want to be and who I want to be. But I did not. I only wanted people to see me as that person. I don't know if you know what SAS, Who Dares Wins, is. I'd applied for that. I was dead set on going on that to try and essentially prove myself. I'd sent in and got round to the physical fitness test to get into the show because I thought that once I'd done that, I could finally prove and be good enough. But in
Good
reality,
enough for who, man?
exactly. This is the thing.
Like if
I
you're waiting
remember
for someone to give you that permission to say you're good enough, it's gonna be a long fucking wait.
Yeah, I was
Or
especially
how about this?
waiting
You're doing
for.
great. Like what can I say?
This is the thing. It's difficult to. I don't know. I'm getting much better at it. It was always this never good enough. So even last year, at November or Movember, the charity for mental health, I was raising money for that by doing certain challenges. I swam 2.5 miles in the ocean. I ran like a half marathon trail run, blah, blah, blah. As soon as those events that were a physical and mental battle had finished, I felt nothing apart from I should have went further because I was unable to go, yeah, brilliant, well done. That was an accomplishment. I had this, but I just couldn't accept achievements, and I couldn't accept anything like progress wise that I'd achieved because I always thought, you know, someone's went further than me. I could have went further. I could have done more. Now, however, being kind of part of the group and kind of stacking the small wins, I have started to, you know, appreciate and almost root for myself
Dude.
and appreciate what I do, which after about 6 years of therapy, I was never meant to do or never able to do. But in this group environment with people who are like-minded and who can, you know, just make sense, and also, you know, they do what they say. It's all well and good, you know, it's like getting diet advice from a fat personal trainer. You're kind of like, well, how much do you really know?
Well, it's tough, right? Like that is a part of it, man. And you know, that being able to walk the walk. Man, that's something I take really, really serious. That being able to walk the walk and not just talk about it. And whether that's been because of, you know, my experimentation, whether that's, you know, cannabis use or psychedelics or breath work or cold or trying things that are a bit outside of the norm for everyone. I've got a group of friends that are far less kooky than me, and I've got a group of friends that are a lot kookier than I am. And for me to be able to explain to a group of people that are more like me, like you guys are, it's imperative that my shit's together. Be impeccable with my word, that those type of things, that if I'm going to lead, I have to fucking hold that torch. That if I am willing to experiment and have all these other things, like they are fucking tools, that I have to show that the rest of my shit's together. Like, not show, but it has to be together. Like, this is not a fucking a gimmick. And that's why there's so much availability. Like, when you guys are around, you get to see my existence. Like, I can't, and if it's a long weekend or any of the things we do, man, you can't fake it for a weekend. You can't fake having your shit together for people for a weekend, you know, or for a week or any of those type of things. And man, look, I don't claim, I don't have anything hardly figured out. And I'm sure me in 5 years would want to fight me for any of the things I think I have figured out now. But what I do know is I give a shit about all of it. Like, and all of it matters because it fucking matters to me. Like, I no longer give a fuck about what the outside opinion is of my thing. I don't need permission. I'm going to build and do whatever the fuck I want because it's for me, and it will succeed or fail because of the effort and how much I'm willing to figure it out. That's it. I love that responsibility. That takes away any fucking anyone else's power over my life of why I don't have or aren't doing what I'd like to be doing. It's not that someone got it done faster or some people got it done easier. Yeah, man, it happens. The only thing that matters is how long it took you to do it. And it takes as long as it takes. You know, with you, Fraser, you know, one of those things that I keep asking is, you've done a lot, you've tried a lot of things because you thought the perception of you doing those things would bring you what you're looking for. But what is it you really like doing? Like, I find camping and stuff easy to do because I like camping.
Mhm.
So what are
It's things that I generally enjoy doing are things that people normally wouldn't. Is the way I can sort of put it into to explain it. So, for instance, like camping, I find that I do really enjoy camping. I enjoy everything about it, but I far more enjoy summit camping, where you are having to, you know, literally carry 20 kilos up an entire Monroe to camp at the top. It's uncomfortable. You don't sleep very well. It's hard. However, that it's type two fun, where
Type 2
there's
fun.
that type 2 fun is pretty much my favorite things to do. This was part of my last relationship ending, was we wanted more fun, but what we both would describe as fun completely different.
Sure.
You know, going to Italy and lying on a beach is, don't get me wrong, Italy sounds lovely. It's my idea of hell.
Yeah, I don't care for it either, man. I don't do beach vacations.
I couldn't
No,
deal
I'm
with
bored to
that.
tears, right?
I'd
So
rather,
like, I don't pretend that I want to.
yeah,
There's people that
I'm
don't
the
like it
exact
too,
same.
man. You don't have to feel weird about not liking that shit.
No, definitely. Even when we'd spoken to, I think it was her cousin and her husband, they wanted to go on a couple's holiday, and I was like, I could buy a new bike for the money that it would cost to go on holiday. I'll come back from that holiday and be $1.50 shorter and not any happier when I could buy a bike and it could last me, you know, for, which didn't go down well, because obviously there's a disconnect on, you know, your mindset and perception of kind of fun. But I think it's good to sort of identify what you do, identify as fun, and chase it as much as you can. I do it by myself.
Yeah.
I always kind of have. I was fed up of waiting around.
That's why I train by myself too, man. I'm not interested. So I also, in the same way, like, I don't want to fucking deal with your schedule. I'm not interested in you having to deal with mine.
Yeah.
I'll never ask you to try to make my training times.
Yeah.
But I don't want to train, but I won't train with you.
I mean, even years ago when I was technically training to be a Marine, I'd get up at 4 o'clock in the morning, 4:30, and then go up to Glencoe and do a Monroe in the rain. If I was to try and organise that with someone else, how are we going to get up there? Taking 2 cars, 1 car, where am I meeting you? what
That's too many
it's just
steps for me. Like I won't go.
can't deal with it. Yeah,
No,
exactly.
it's
If it gets
too
too
many steps.
complicated, I just don't do it.
Look, that's why my truck's built the way it is so that I can go camping under no notice.
Yeah, get up
Because I
and
don't
go.
want to spend 3 hours setting shit up. I won't go.
Yep, exactly. So I think it's not, maybe not perceived. I think it's the difference between being lonely and being alone. People find it very strange that, you know, you do things alone, you're up on top of a mountain by yourself, you're doing all this kind of stuff, but it's sort of, I enjoy it. Being pretty introverted, I don't want to talk to people. People tend to ruin quite a lot of things.
If that's the case, right? And then you find the annoyance is when you try to fit in and do the more extroverted things that other people, quote unquote, find, I don't know, normal fun. Stop.
Yeah. Yeah.
Just go do those shit that you like doing, man.
Yeah,
Like,
exactly.
you'll either find people that are doing those things that are happy to be introverts with you.
Yeah.
Or you'll keep learning the lessons on your own.
Yeah, definitely.
You know what I mean? Learn from that, dude. Take that time that you're by yourself to be bored and have that awareness. You know, use that time to learn and listen to books and figure out other information about what can help you build more of that mindset.
Yeah, I think everyone's got their purpose. Everyone's got, you know, your relationships with people who you work with have a certain, you know, purpose, and then people who, or your family got a certain purpose. I think that's absolutely fine. But obviously, I think being able to be by yourself and be alone and enjoy your own company is a huge thing, especially for, you know, thinking and having thoughts and having been able to just sit down and, you know, kind of go over kind of what's going on instead of constantly having that buzz of conversation and people around you.
I think you have to take time to process and deload.
Yeah.
You know, you have to take time to process it and deload. You have to take time to really objectively look at the last whatever chapter it was of stress or whatever you did, and what did I like, what did I dislike, what do I want more of, and what do I want more of, what do I want less, and what steps do I take to accomplish that. I look at things so much as a, where do I want to go? And sure, maybe I don't know the answer, but you know, the answer of how to do it, but I can usually figure out like what's the first actionable thing I can do to start being in that way. Maybe that's a fucking Google search.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. What I found as well is, you know, instead of trying to figure out where you want to go, is trying to figure out where you really don't want to go, and then doing the opposite. I think it was Jordan Peterson. I don't know if you ever used his online, what is it? He's got an online essay thing you can do. And essentially you can just type away, and one of the questions that you do is basically, if your life was hell, you know, how would it look? What do you not want? And then, you know, shoot for the opposite direction. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I think, look, there's a lot in figuring out what you don't like to. That's eliminating options. Everything you're doing, whether you figure out something you don't like or you figuring out something you do like, is narrowing the scope. Hey guys, I know we're rounding up to about 10:15, so if anyone else got anything they want to share, add in. If not, we'll call it a wrap and get on with our wonderful Sundays.
I got one real quick.
Coming in with the aggressive echo.
All right. Hey, on the journaling prompts, I just threw a challenge out there for everybody. If you have something that makes you extremely uncomfortable or uncomfortable this week, over the next 2 weeks, actually, just take your time and try and put yourself in that position. If it's going first, if it's speaking in public, just take this time over the next 2 weeks to try and challenge that discomfort. That's it.
I think that's great. Yep. Guys, I appreciate you all. Let's make a killer week. Trevon, let's go, bro.
I just wanted to say it's been a really cool experience so far. I was really hesitant because I don't really do well with sharing in groups like this. So I've been really appreciative of everyone being so welcoming and part of it. And so that's it.
Heck yeah, man. That's what we want, dude. We want, you know, if it's not a place that's going to build, and this goes with all your relationships, right? Like there has to be some sense of safety for both people to feel vulnerable. And if we're not both going to be vulnerable, we can't be honest with each other. And if we're not honest with each other, this isn't being built on anything that's going to have enough foundation for us to really benefit. And so if we can't have honesty and discuss these things, then what the fuck was the point of creating this? So
Yep.
On that, thank you guys. Enjoy another week. Make this one count. We got a lot of tools to use. And again, man, like coming into this, these are all tools that I want you to experiment with ideas, experiment with thoughts, experiment with checking out new books and information. I occasionally I'll read something that is completely off base. Recently I read one, what is it? It's super conspiracy theory. Hold on, I don't know where my phone is. It's like unholy something or other, and it has to do with like the New World Order, and I think at the end of it they kind of get into lizard people and that whole thing. Not my cup of tea, but I'm interested to know about if there's a group of people that believe this is something going on. Maybe not all of it's real, but I'd like to hear and decipher what makes sense and doesn't make sense. You know, just expose myself to new thoughts of, you know, how the World Bank works and what has gone historically in different subjects, instead of assuming that the story I got from Jump is right. So
I heard that one.
it's an interesting one.
Yeah, I heard that one.
So guys, thank you very much. Have a great week. Love you all, and see you soon.